So CNN has obtained a leaked audio recording from Trump's classified document case that allegedly shows Trump showing classified documents to people he wasn't supposed to be showing them to. Now, for many, this is the nail in the coffin, the gotcha moment, because it shows that not only was he holding on to classified documents that he shouldn't have been holding on to, but he was also showing them to people, which is a cardinal sin. However, there's another side to this. The contents of the classified documents matter. And in this case, they showed a plot by General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to attack Iran, effectively starting a war and then blaming it all on Trump. Take a listen.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, you know, against you.
Well, it started right at the beginning.
Like when Milley's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Look at that.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it. No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying because we were talking about it, and you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what. These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out a
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, you know, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Okay, so it sounds like he's showing these classified documents to these people in this room who he's not supposed to be showing classified documents to. So we're going to break this down and walk you through exactly the context and what was going on here. So this recording, which was leaked to CNN recently by, who knows, maybe the Department of Justice leaked it. It seems like things leak when it's convenient to be leaked to the media. If it's going to make President Trump look bad, if it makes Biden look bad, things seemingly don't leak. But this was a recording that leaked. This recording was reportedly, according to the indictment, this was from July 21st of 2021. That's this recording here. He was apparently talking to some people who were involved, publishers who were involved with Mark Meadows, who was that's Trump's fourth chief of staff, his book that he was going to be releasing called The Chief's Chief. So he was talking to a room of people about, you know, who were involved in the publishing of this book, The Chief's Chief. This was on July 21st. The reason why he was showing them this was because he was mad. Now, that book came out in December of 2021, and this meeting was in July. He was mad about these reports that had come out about 6 days earlier that Trump was egging on Iran, that basically that Mark Milley and Nancy Pelosi and all these people had stopped Trump from starting a war with Iran. And he was showing in this recording these papers that say, that wasn't me. That was General Mark Milley. He was the one who actually had the plan to attack Iran. And now he's going around saying that I was the one who was wanting to attack Iran. So this piece in the New Yorker came out July 15th of 2021. This was 6 days before this recording took place. And he knew, by the way, that recording was happening. It's what happens when publishers meet with you. They're interviewing you. It was a scheduled interview. He knew about the recording, so it wasn't like he was being secretly recorded. So on July 15th, the New Yorker comes out with this piece titled Mark Milley's, you're going to have a effing war, Mark Milley's fight to stop Trump from striking Iran. Shortly after this piece comes out, and this alleges that Trump had this big plan, he was a loose cannon. We saw these media reports throughout his entire presidency that he was a nightmare dictator, authoritarian, psychopath, and he was just going to march us into war after war after war, and somebody needed to stop him. He was incredibly dangerous. Even though he didn't start any wars, now we're in wars. That's a different president, but that's what they were claiming about Trump. Now, the media went wild with this. They took, now liberal media, mainstream media, they're all saying, oh my gosh, this piece coming out from General Mark Milley, somebody who knows, and he's claiming that Trump is a loose cannon and he had to really do everything he could to stop him from starting a war with Iran. Here's a segment from, I believe this is CBS News, around the same, this was right after this New Yorker piece came out and they're reporting on it. This kind of gives you a taste of what the media, how the media went crazy with this story, and Nancy Pelosi was even involved in the plot. Watch this.
Well, tonight, more shocking revelations about the final days of the Trump administration, including serious talk of a potential attack on Iran and a big intelligence failure within the Secret Service leading up to the Capitol riot. We get more details tonight from CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
A new report tonight reveals former President Trump's top general was actively working to stop him from striking Iran in the final days of his presidency. If you do this, you're going to have an expletive war, General Mark Milley would say, according to the article. The same concern held by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who told 60 Minutes she called the chairman of the Joint Chiefs personally.
I have sought information from those who are in a position to know that there are protections against this dangerous president initiating any military hostilities or something worse than that.
Okay, so thank goodness they stopped him. He was a warmongering president about to get us into a war potentially devastating with Iran, and that could potentially lead to nuclear war or whatever. And thank goodness for Nancy Pelosi calling up General Mark Milley and saying, and the two of them colluding together on how they could possibly stop this warmongering president. Turns out now from these classified documents that Trump had in his possession that he was showing these people who were involved in Mark Meadows, his chief of staff's book, that in fact it was not him who was the warmonger, but it was in fact General Mark Milley himself. And he was going around lying, the Joint Chiefs of Staff was going around lying, saying that the President of the United States was the one who was a loose cannon planning attacks on Iran. And it was not the President of the United States. It was instead the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley. That in and of itself is a bombshell. So the big question then with this entire saga of Trump and the classified documents, now he's got classified documents. They're saying this is the gotcha moment. Now you're showing those classified documents to people. And if you're willing to show them to publishers and people who are interviewing you for a book, who else are you willing to show these papers to? That's the big question that people are having that are milking this this new leaked audio. CNN and the likes of CNN are saying, this is, who else then? He sold state secrets. He's a traitor to the country. Who's the traitor to the country? That's really what this audio is showcasing. It's asking that question, who is the traitor to the country? Who's the traitor? Is it the person who has classified documents that they're not supposed to be having and they share them to a group of other Americans who are writing a book to prove that the documents prove that the narrative in the media was false? Is that person the traitor? Or is it the person who claimed the President of the United States is plotting an attack on a country but actually was the one who made the plans themselves? Who committed the worst crime? And so a lot of us are looking at this and we're saying, okay, oddly, this is Trump's Chelsea Manning or Edward Snowden moment, right? I mean, this is the moment where he took documents And yes, maybe I think absolutely illegally has the documents. And the problem with the documents and him having classified documents is so did a lot of other people, right? So did Joe Biden, so did Hillary Clinton, so did Mike Pence, and they're not getting this sort of treatment. They're not being indicted for this. So that's kind of the big, there's a double standard going on there. And the reason they're saying is, well, it's because Trump was defiant. Well, Hillary Clinton was destroying all kinds of stuff. She was destroying servers and smashing phones with hammers, literally. So let's just say they're all guilty. They're all guilty of this, every last one of them. There's a double standard here, but they're guilty. They have these classified documents. So is it a worse crime to have this? So he takes these classified documents he's not supposed to have, which is the same thing as Edward Snowden, right, or Chelsea Manning, where they have these documents that they're sworn to protect as people who work for the government, and instead they leak them. But it's the contents of what they discovered that matters. That's what's infuriating to most of us. It's not the fact that they leaked the classified documents. We say, look, if you are uncovering a plot, a crime, if you are uncovering something that should not be happening in our government, then you should be able to do that and without consequence. There should be a rule, a law in the government that you are allowed to expose classified documents if you are exposing the government of wrongdoing. And in this case, he's exposing the Joint Chiefs of Staff of wrongdoing. He was planning attacks on Iran and then going around and blaming the sitting president, saying the sitting president was the one who was a loose cannon, smearing the sitting president of the United States who was duly elected. Who is the bigger criminal? That's the big question. So Trump has now reacted to this. He reacted to this before CNN got the leaked tapes, the actual recordings themselves. This had been reported on that this recording existed. We hadn't heard it yet, but we knew that it existed, and that was being put out there in the indictment. So Trump sat down with Fox News' Bret Baier, and this is what Trump had to say about the document. He claims that these were not classified documents. These were just newspapers and magazine articles. Listen to this.
You're quoted on the recording saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know, this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this on tape,
it says just the opposite,
that you can't declassify it. So why have it?
When I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's what you said. You didn't declassify it.
I said no. I said I couldn't.
But
that wasn't a document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things. And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so newspaper stories, magazine articles, that's what he's claiming. That's not what it sounded like in the tapes, to be honest. It sounds like he actually showed classified documents. But again, the big question in my mind is not, oh, okay, yes, it's a crime to have classified documents that you're not supposed to have and to show them to people. But the bigger crime and what really should be making the headlines is the fact that the Joint Chiefs of Staff was basically framing the president of the United States, saying that he was a warmonger and acting like he's the one who drew up these plans when instead it was General Mark Milley himself. That, to me, is a much bigger crime, and that's the headline there. It's not, oh, my gosh, you caught me. It's, what did I catch you doing? I caught you doing something really atrocious. And yet you're pointing at me saying, well, you shouldn't have snooped. I mean, that's essentially what this is boiling down to. Trump has then come out today with a truth, on his Truth Social, and this is what he has to say. He says, the deranged special prosecutor Jack Smith, working in conjunction with the DOJ and FBI, illegally leaked and spun a tape and transcript of me, which is actually an exoneration rather than what they would have you believe. This continuing witch hunt is another election interference scam. They are cheaters and thugs. So I get it. I think when it comes to Trump and this whole thing is they're absolutely 100%, no matter how you feel about him. I didn't vote for the guy. Many of you did, I know, and many of you didn't. But it doesn't matter how you feel about Trump. The fact is we watched a witch hunt against a sitting president of the United States happen, and it's continued to happen so that he doesn't get back into the Oval Office. And it started before he even got there. Although they were much nicer to him on the campaign trail, once he started really becoming a threat, they started to say, oh my gosh, look at this person. But ultimately, they were trying to remove him from power. They made that clear, and they've continued to try to block him from gaining power again. And we've watched this happen, and it was very unfair the way that they went about it, and they lied. And we're now seeing these lies come out. And rather than focusing on the fact they lied, they're covering up and saying, oh my gosh, but look at Trump. He shouldn't have been doing this thing that caught us in the lie. But we continue to see them and catching them in these lies. And I can understand Trump's position. I can understand him being so defiant because he's so sick of the witch hunt. I would be sick of it too. He's absolutely fed up of them constantly coming after him. And so, yeah, he's become defiant. He didn't want to give up the classified documents. Yeah, he has these documents that prove that they lied about him, and he's wanting to show that to people. I can understand that sentiment. Unfortunately, it implicates him in a different crime, although I think a lesser crime and one that shouldn't put him in jail. But certainly, there should be real questions to General Mark Milley. And a real big question that I have for Donald Trump is, if he were to win and become the president again and sit in that Oval Office, will he pardon people like Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, those who did this same thing, took classified documents and exposed a crime that members of the United States government were committing? Things that they should not have been doing, egregious against the American public, starting wars, spying, plotting, and then looking to blame. So will he then, when he's president again, if he's president again, will he then start signing some papers to pardon? That's what I would like to see. All right, we cannot talk about the crimes of one president without talking about the crimes of the other. So let's get to Joe Biden. Last week, the Ways and Means Committee released some transcripts from whistleblower testimony that implicated President Joe Biden and called into question his assertion that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. So first of all, what you have to understand is, who are the whistleblowers, right? Everybody wants to know, well, who are these whistleblowers? These are IRS agents who were investigating Hunter Biden. And during their investigations, they'd uncovered quite a few things that they thought, needed some extra investigation. But their superiors halted them. They were basically told, don't look any further into that, stop, mind your own business, don't do that. They then became whistleblowers saying, hey, wait a minute, there are some real crimes here and there's things that we need to investigate and we're not being allowed to, and that's our job, and so that should be exposed. So they've exposed that. So in their testimony, these IRS agents had been investigating Hunter Biden, and they had access to his WhatsApp. From the iCloud, they were able to gain access to his WhatsApp messages, which everybody thinks they're supposed to be protected, and looks like they're not, because apparently the government can get your WhatsApp messages. So in these WhatsApp messages, there's an entire conversation between Hunter Biden and Henry Zhao, is a Chinese businessman who is a chairman of a big Chinese corporation. And in this text exchange, he says, this is Hunter Biden saying, I'm sitting here. Now, this text right here, by the way, this is just like a fabricated image taken from the Ways and Means transcript, and somebody then made it look like a text message just for visual effect. So this is not the actual text message, just so you know. This is just for visuals. It says, I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father, he says. Dun, dun, dun. So this is a bombshell because it calls into question Joe Biden's assertion that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. He has said that. His team has said that. They've asserted he had nothing to do with it. Hunter did his own thing and his dad was not involved. This text message that was uncovered by these IRS whistleblowers through their investigation and them gathering these WhatsApp messages shows that's not the case. That if Hunter Biden was not lying, which I guess that's a possibility, but there's some evidence that he's not. If he's not lying, then his dad was sitting next to him and they were wondering what is going on with this business deal and where's their $5 million. Shortly after this text exchange, there was a $5 million deposit into Hunter Biden's business accounts from this Chinese corporation. $5 million. Now he's saying, you know, the Bidens are amazing and we are worth $5 million. I can get $5 million from any law firm in America. You know, he's trying to threaten them, saying, we're the best. You want to hire us. We do what we do. No one else can do what we do. Why is that is a big question. Is it because, oh, your dad is vice president of the United States? Now, this was going on during the time that his dad was vice president of the United States. So now then the question is, can we trace Hunter and Joe into the same location? Because if he's claiming his dad is sitting next to him and he's claiming and he's basically threatening this guy saying, what's going on? Or, you know, tell me or else. Is his dad really there? Is he in the same location? So it turns out, yes, they were in the same location. There's photos from Hunter Biden's laptop that show him, that places him at the family's Wilmington, Delaware home on the same day as those WhatsApp messages, which was July 30th of 2017. That is when Joe Biden was president of the United States, okay? So there he is on that day from his laptop in Wilmington, Delaware. Then we see, this is from Representative Claudia Tenney, says here, the key question now is where was Joe, right? Because was he actually sitting next to Hunter as stated? Well, newly unearthed photos that we've obtained indicate that the same week Hunter was at the Wilmington home, Joe Biden was pictured minutes away at the BBC Tavern and Grill in Grenville, Delaware. So it looks like he was also in Delaware at least at the same week as Hunter being at the home on that day. So it's very possible Joe was there at that day. And really, with Secret Service records, I mean, it's not going to be difficult to verify where Joe Biden was at that time on that day because he was the vice president of the United States at the time. So Secret Service absolutely knows. Ways and Means Committee have said that they are still investigating this. So my guess is that's what they're investigating, is they're investigating where was Joe Biden. And really, will Secret Service be able to tell, not only was he at his Wilmington, Delaware home, but I don't know how it works with the Secret Service. Do they follow you around inside of your house? I don't. Maybe they just park themselves outside, but they could at least know, yeah, he was there, and maybe they had eyes and ears on him at all times, making sure that nothing was going on. I don't know to the depth or level that the Secret Service follows these guys, but they certainly would be able to place Joe Biden at that location on that day. So what's interesting about this now is how the media has been dealing with this. What we've seen over the last several years of this information being out there, Hunter Biden's laptop, is that they've just covered for him, is that they don't ask questions. They acted like the laptop story was a hoax from Russia. They wouldn't even entertain it, saying we're not going to even look into this. They've treated Joe Biden with kid gloves. And rather than asking him the hard questions about what had been discovered and about business dealings, they were asking him his favorite flavor of ice cream. Those are the types of questions they were asking up until now. So now it looks like liberal media is actually taking this kind of seriously, because in a press conference with Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for the United States, these reporters finally did their job and they pressed her one by one over and over and over again about where was Joe when this text message was sent. This is real. They were saying, we got to know this. And they actually started, for once, doing their jobs. Watch this.
And secondly, the president invited his son Hunter to the state dinner last night. I'm wondering if you could take us into the thinking and the decision-making of why the president decided to invite his son.
I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion. As you know, Hunter is his son. I'm just not going to get into it.
Let me ask you this. If Hunter Biden wasn't the president's son, would he have invited someone who had just reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors 2 days earlier?
A couple of things. Again, that's his son. He's a family member. It is not uncommon for family members to attend events at the White House. You could look at past presidents. I'm sure you have. So that is not uncommon. As it relates to anything related to Hunter, I'm just not going to respond to it from here.
Can I follow up on that?
Okay. No, I just called in somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Kirby wouldn't answer James's question, though. Are you going to answer the question? I mean, not a reasonable question to ask whether the President of the United States was involved, as this message seems to suggest, in some sort of coercive conversation for business dealings by his son. Is that something, if he wasn't, then maybe you should tell us.
So here's the thing, and I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already, has dealt with this, has made it very clear. I just don't have anything to share outside of what my colleagues have shared, and so I would refer you to him and the DOJ. Just not going to comment from here.
Text message.
I will. What I can tell you is I know that my colleague has dealt with this. He addressed this at the White House Counsel. I just don't have anything else to share. I just answered the question. I just answered the question.
No, you didn't. Yes or no? Was the president involved in the shakedown attempt?
Stephen, I just answered the question. I just said, it's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question by telling you my colleagues at the White House Counsel has dealt with this, and I would refer you to them. Go ahead.
Can you just remind us what your colleague said from the White House Counsel so we have it from you at the podium?
I would refer you to them, and they will share their statement with all of you.
My question is about your statements from that podium. You've stated that the president stands by his comment from the 2020 campaign that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with his son. And you stood at that podium and you reaffirmed that. Do you stand by your reaffirmation?
What I will say is nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And I will leave it there. Anything else, I will refer you to the White House Counsel.
This is not a change?
I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question. Go ahead.
Go ahead. The president was there 2 days prior.
Go ahead, Stephen. I'm calling on your colleague right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. To follow up on my colleague, is there anything that you can say with regard to this text message and what the president's son was alleging? Was the president there or not?
I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House Counsel. They have addressed this, and I refer you to them. Go ahead.
Karine, have you spoken to the president about this? Have you asked him whether he was there with his son on July 30th?
This is not a conversation that I've had with the president. Again, I would refer you to the White House Counsel.
Do you plan to have that conversation with the president?
No.
Did the president speak with the Attorney General at all last night?
I cannot say if the president had a conversation with the Attorney General last night. What I can refer you to is the White House Counsel's office as it relates to the allegations. They've already addressed this. This is something for them to deal with. I refer you to the Department of Justice on anything else if you don't want to speak to the White House Counsel's office.
And there was reporting earlier in the week that after the plea agreement was reached by Hunter Biden, that the president felt relieved that that part of it was behind him. Is that true? Can you speak to his mindset?
I can't speak to that. I cannot speak to the president's mindset. Again, I would refer you to the White House Counsel's office.
Wow, they finally did their job over and over. She couldn't believe it. I'm sure she was in shock. This had never happened to her before since she had been press secretary, actually getting pressed over and over and over again by nearly every journalist in the room that asked the question. She kept hoping as she called on someone else that they would change the subject to ice cream flavors, but instead she just got pressed again on that. So that kind of leads many of us to believe that something's going down. The Democrats are fed up with Joe. They're looking for a way to usher him out. They know that they can't win with him. And so the fact that they're turning on him, the fact that the media is turning on him makes many of us wonder if there is a plot at play where they plan to usher him out stage left and bring somebody else in. Of course, they're not able to have a free and fair election, which would Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would probably be doing very well in, but instead they're going to pick the new candidate again, and it's likely going to be somebody like, Gavin Newsom, the dread. But that is something to look out for. Is the media changing? Is the Democratic establishment changing? Are they looking to out Joe and put somebody else in? Because it's starting to kind of look that way. All right, well, if you haven't tried Field of Greens yet, now is a great time. I can't get enough of this amazing product. It is a finely powered blend of dehydrated whole fruits and vegetables, meticulously chosen to provide you with maximum nutritional benefits for your diet. All you need to do is take a scoop of this powder and mix it into your ice water, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how delicious it tastes. It's the easiest way to incorporate a wide range of fruits and vegetables into your daily routine. Now, personally, I'm a fan of the refreshing lemon lime flavor, but they also offer a mixed berry option. And for those of you seeking an energy boost during your workout, they have an energy version available. And the unflavored option is, in my opinion, great in a chocolate protein shake. I'm not kidding. It kind of gives it a berry flavor. Now, the best part is you can integrate all of these essential fruits and veggies into your diet at a discount. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code KIM to get 15% off your first order.